growing your companies doesn't have to be organic growth. Growing your companies doesn't have to be by sales and marketing, generating more leads and closing more leads. When you get to a certain size, that some of the most efficient ways to grow your company is starting to acquire some of your competition. One of the kind of topics I want to open us up with and starting on today is just related to leveraging AI in our business. I was at the main TED conference. The topic of conversation across all 5 days seemed to be around AI, the existential threat of AI. Who owns our copyright or our trademark? Like, could I take a picture of John Bowen and 10 of his speaking events that are all online and upload them into some software and create my own videos and send them all out? Does John own that video or do I own it? Like, who owns the copyrights and trademarks of stuff? And then also all of this information about us, who owns all that data that AI can be using? There's those questions. And then the other ones are, how are we using AI to scale our business, right? And everybody keeps talking about ChatGPT. There's 4,000 different apps that are available or tools that are available. And of those, there's about 1,100 different things that AI can currently do.
Yeah, I'm trying to get our team. We have a bunch of software developers. So there's like two, I'm sure there's others, but different tools that are kind of like autocomplete for software developers. There's one called GitHub Copilot. There's another one called Tap9. We're trying to roll that out. It should save them a lot of time.
As an organization, we're doing absolutely nothing. However, our fractional positions are leveraging the hell out of it. And we can tell, like, hey, give me a campaign for Mother's Day that addresses this demographic. And we get the campaign plan. You could tell it was written by a robot or misspelling words. Some of it doesn't make sense. So our fractional people, I guess because of the nature of the careers they chose, I think are really adopting it. And so for us, it's been kind of frustrating to see the output of it.
Dived in head first, so probably saved $250,000 just personally on AI this year. And we've engaged 2 contractors, one building out a tutor for our coaching program. We won't call it tutor because they're high-end financial advisors, but based on Khan Academy. Sal Khan was at Peter Diamandis's event a few weeks ago and really was impressed with what he was doing. And then we have 2 unbelievable writing stars, and we're creating a BOD, ChatGPT equivalent of their content. We've got about 20 years of content so that we can scale up more. And the third is we're starting an AI company on expert systems on the advanced planning as advisors have gone up market, working with very successful entrepreneurs. One of the things that they've been good at marketing, but not necessarily being able to provide good advice on tax, estate planning, asset protection, charitable. And we've been building the content for the last 10 years on this and then have all the experts. So we're putting it all together.
So we're using it a ton. We're using it for data manipulation, developing databases, emails, contracts, designing graphics, best processes. So like we'll have processes and we'll allow it to edit it. Amazon listing optimization, advertising, job descriptions. It's always interesting. Like we're doing a whole onboarding revamp for our customers, and we just tossed it into ChatGPT, and like it was beautiful what it put out. So, and it gave a really great starting place. So it's nice. And then just training our employees to take the data, manipulate it, or take what it spits out, manipulate it, edit it. You guys shouldn't be getting stuff back from companies that are using AI with misspellings and all that, because they should know better. But yeah, we're using it for a lot. It's been really great.
We basically use ChatGPT a lot. We've not really had a lot of employee engagement on the AI stuff. We have a lot of hesitation, I feel like. We've got 65 office employees who run around here all day long and who have all different types of personalities. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to engage them all in all of their different departments. My marketing manager came to me, and we're using Lumen to do videos based off of our SEO company. Other than that, like I said, we're having a really hard time trying to get our employees engaged.
Engaged what? In using the tools or engaged just day to day?
And AI in general.
Okay. Love it.
We're using AI pretty much very similar to another gentleman that spoke earlier. I went to a conference for Peter Diamandis about 6 weeks ago, and I knew about ChatGPT. And then when I came back, I'm like, okay, I got to get everybody on this freaking platform. So what I literally did is created a company-wide meeting and just really asked every employee to jump on the bandwagon, subjective of their role. So it could be utilized for HR, for marketing purposes, to create content, for my executive assistant to create letters on my behalf, you name it. And even for our senior leadership meetings, I just ask everybody, as we have in what I call adult conversations, and we have an issue that we cannot resolve, we always go back to ChatGPT and say, hey, let's type it in and see what we get. It's like another sounding board for us.
I've done a couple of job postings with it. I created some simple legal agreements and term sheets that I was able to send off to lawyers who said they were actually pretty good just as they were. Some of my thoughts around AI, one is that tell all of your employees that AI is only going to put the people out of work who don't adopt AI. But the people who do try to adopt AI, the people who do try to leverage AI are the ones who are going to stay employed. So the only employees that we want working in our companies today are the ones that can use a computer and can use Slack and can use tech tools, right? We don't want an employee who wants to use a typewriter. We don't want an employee that wants to use a fax machine. We don't want employees who use paper day timers. They need to understand that this is a technology that has to be adopted, that we want them to spend time on it on a weekly basis, playing with it. I would give every employee, tell them 1 hour every week, I want you to play around with some of these tools and give them the whole, there's an AI for that. Show them there's 4,000 different AI tools, poke around with, play with whichever ones you want to. And then on Monday, report back on the things that you did using AI to make your job better or faster or more efficient, to show us the prompts that you used. Maybe you do a Loom video to show the AI tool actually doing the work so you can explain what you did. But we need to be able to share our wins and get our employees sharing their wins at leveraging AI. You think of your law firm, we don't pay the senior partner to do all the work. We pay a junior legal person to pull it together and a more senior person to polish it and a senior partner to make sure that it's perfect. That's kind of the way that AI is going to be working as well. So we need to teach our employees to expect that some of the stuff's going to come back and it'll be okay. But then what are the prompts that we can then give it to polish it? And I think by letting our employees play with it for an hour a week and find parts of their day-to-day, find parts of their job, that's going to show us some really easy wins going forward. So that's one suggestion that I would have, is let them play. The second part is that AI, maybe we just have to consider it that it gets it to 80% perfect. If I have to write a memo to send out to my team, I'm pretty horrible at it. So I'll give you an example of yesterday. I was doing a podcast interview for the Second in Command podcast. So I took all of her ideas, I typed them into ChatGPT, and I said, please write a podcast introduction for the Second in Command podcast. And this is what it came back with. Way better than I could have done. Now, I could take that podcast intro and I could send it to somebody on my team who knows her more and they could polish it. The thing is, we need to get momentum creating momentum, right? The old way that we used to do things was painfully slow. No different than any executive who types with their fingers right now. We need to teach our employees that AI is not a threat unless you refuse to learn how to use it. Just like computers are not a threat unless you decide to not learn how to use computers. I think coaching as an industry is going to be 80% wiped out within 3 to 5 years, because I think 80% of all coaching could be done by AI.
Yeah, no, it's there was a study that was presented, Dan, you might remember, Peter Diamandis said it from stage. It was therapists, but it was some vets coming back with post-traumatic syndrome, and they study over the last year of treating them, one using AI only, and the other traditional therapy, and the improvement was about 30% better with the AI.
It's no different than, 15 years ago, people saying this is stupid. Well, now we can't even do without, right? Like all of us are completely useless without our phones. This is a technology that we need to learn how to use. We need to learn how to adopt it. We need to understand it, which means hiring a bunch of 22-year-olds to teach us. My 19-year-old son wrote an essay, and the professor came up to him and said, "Did you use AI to write your essay?" And my son said, yes, would you like me to show you the process I used? And the professor said, yeah, please. So my son showed him the multi-step process he used to create and polish and like adapt this essay that he then turned in. And the professor goes, that's amazing. Here's your grade, and gave my son an amazing grade. The professor understands that this is one of the most important technology tools of the future. And to say that students can't use one of the most important tools that they're going to be using for the next 60 years is insane. So we need to adapt. Years ago, I saw this saying, and it said that if the rate of change outside your business is greater than the rate of change inside your business, you're out of business. So it really is a kind of adapt or die, right?
I have one comment. Lacey, you were talking about adoption, getting people to adopt it. Personally, I adopted it after I spent some time using it on non-office things. So like I asked it to write a children's book for me. I gave it my macros and said, create a 7-day meal plan. And then when it busted out the 7-day meal plan with my grocery list, I was like, I need to be using this every day. So if you can like get your employees to use it, like even in that hour that Cameron's talking about, spend 15 minutes asking questions that would help you personally outside of the office, it's very convincing.
Create the 7-day meal plan, and then from the meal plan, it creates your grocery list. And from the grocery list, it can actually set up with Whole Foods, and it literally can give you the entire Whole Foods shopping list, and then you can upload it into Instacart and have it delivered to your home.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
Now people are linking those tasks together using Zapier. So you can literally create it, have it dump into, and without even having to do it, and Zapier can actually integrate and make that thing happen. All of a sudden, 6 hours later, groceries are coming to your door. We need to get a bunch of 20-year-olds to come to our office and sit down with 20-year-olds and say, this is what I do for work. Teach me how to use AI. Here's tasks that I do. Show me how to use it. Like, let them shadow you for a week. You'll be amazed at what you can pull together.
Do you start on your own in the business, like sign up for ChatGPT or any other tool, or do you hire an expert?
If you ask a 20-year-old, how do they learn how to use this? It's YouTube. They literally go to YouTube, show me how to use ChatGPT for this, show me how to use it for that, show me what people are using it for. Top 5 uses for a jewelry company, top 5 uses for marketing. But you, Sean, should be spending a half hour to an hour a day at learning this technology and getting your employees and getting them to come back in and talk about it. It's some of the most impactful stuff that we can be thinking about as an organization today. We don't have to become the experts on everything. We have to find the people that are experts on things. And some of these experts aren't the 40-year-olds anymore. Sometimes the 40-year-olds have got 5 years experience 6 times in a row, but it's the 25-year-old that has 5 years experience and the technology skills to kick our ass that we need to be leveraging them. They don't necessarily know how to run our business, but they can see opportunities with integrations and optimization and AI and outsourcing and leveraging freelancers that can just literally make our heads spin. I had dinner with somebody on the Federal Reserve Bank about 8 years ago, and this is strange that it's going back so long, but he said debt is good until it's bad.
Yeah.
Then he said that he sees interest rates going to 3 to 4 times what the current prime rate was. And the prime was 3%, and he's going to 9 to 12%. I mean, that sounds extraordinary, but I think we're in a period of stagflation or some form of stagflation where you have a recession and inflation happening at the same time. It's just to be cautious with the debt, but it's also to just stay focused on what matters and to also learn how to get real efficient. Right?
We do, a lot of research. So I just got a study we just finished of 1,200, very affluent people. And the number one concern is inflation still, though, by far. It's in the 70-some%.
It's a shame that the middle class and the working class don't understand that inflation is what wipes them out, not taxing the rich. Like if we could actually prevent government from blowing through the roof constantly.
We've been trying to assign some directors to revamp our internal, and we were having a little bit of a hard time figuring out if we should be combining sales and marketing.
Yeah, so what worked for me personally was definitely combining sales and marketing. Before I had sales and marketing separately. And from the moment that I actually managed our sales and marketing team, and we pretty much run our L10 with our sales and marketing folks, there's a really good synergies and chemistry between both, or there's a major correlation with what the results and performance of the marketing do that has an ideal outcome for the sales team. The feedback that they sort of give to each other is very beneficial to both departments.
Most of the businesses I have, I keep them separate only because it's easier to measure, but it's, as Dan's saying, it's very important they're talking to each other. When somebody's combining, and oftentimes they'll do a chief revenue officer. It's going to depend on what the goals are, for driving revenue. If you're going to tie them together, you bring the marketing salespeople together under one person that's driving revenue, but they're very different skill sets for most organizations.
Yeah, I agree that they tend to be very different skill sets for most companies. I think what also we're starting to see now is that marketing and sales are becoming much more integrated as well. That we don't tend to have, because it's expensive, real outbound smile and dial, cold calling, hitting the pavement salespeople. We tend to have the marketing driving everything, and then sales is kind of the back end. They do tend to be very, very integrated.
Keep them separate, but they're like different types of people. We have like BDRs who are cold calling, and then we have marketing people who are like content writers and SEO experts. So they're just like very different team cultures.
Nick, I think you also need to sit and look at the two divisions that one person may be running and really think about what are the core roles and responsibilities for each of those hats or each of those divisions. What's the makeup of the team? Like, what kind of leadership does the team need? Right? If they need somebody driving them and growing them and leading them and developing them, that's very different from one that is trying to integrate them and keep communication happening. Right?
I guess a big part of my concern is that we have two different sales teams. And when you throw marketing in on top of that, it's like 4 different departments, because you have B2B and B2B marketing, and you have B2C and B2C marketing. And that's just a lot for one person to oversee. And then you throw in customer service for that also.
What % of revenue are you currently spending on sales and marketing combined? Are you managing or measuring, your return on ad spend? Are you measuring anything against kind of the SaaS magic number at all? Are you measuring your cost of acquiring a customer and lifetime value of a customer and any of those ratios?
One of the things we do is, we're really big on monthly reoccurring revenue ratios. So, which is a function of client acquisition and, the revenue generation from retention. And so, we're always targeting to be at about 4 on that type thing. And that's been one of our big key drivers.
They asked all the top ad agencies 20 years ago, what percentage of your budget, what percentage of your revenue do you spend on sales and marketing? They all say you should spend 8 to 10%. And none of the top 10 ad agencies were spending more than 2% on sales and marketing. You're looking at 3 numbers, the SaaS magic number, which takes this quarter's revenue minus last quarter's revenue divided by last quarter's marketing spend. And as long as I'm greater than 1, they say to be greater than 0.7 to 1, and I'm trying to stay greater than 1.4, but it just shows the efficiency of your marketing. The other thing I'm looking at is my cost of acquiring a client and my lifetime value of a client. And then what's the cash conversion cycle of that? So if I'm spending $4,000 to generate a client, but a client's worth $15,000 for me over 2 years, and if I spend $4,000 and generate 9 right away, but they're worth 15, then the net is I'll spend 4 all day long to generate 15. Right? I can spend 25% as long as I know that my cost of acquiring is worth the lifetime value. So that's a number that I measure towards. And then the other is just return on ad spend. What's my monthly for what I spent? What was the revenue? And as long as I'm trying to generate 200% to 250% minimum return on ad spend, then I at least know I'm going in the right direction.
My question or issue is knowing how to take calculated risk with so much uncertainty in the market, right? So we're going from like 20 million to 30 million in sales revenues within a year. The hardest thing in my business is that I'm in a business that is very capital intense, human intense, and low profit margin business. So to go from 20 to 30% is a major growth effort for us. And sometimes I ask myself, do I just better be more conservative and not grow as fast and just wait another 2 years until I see more certainty in the market? Or how do I continue to play the game with more calculated risks, because we almost went bankrupt during the pandemic as well?
So who do you have on your team Or what freelancer are you using to help you model this stuff out?
I have a fractional CFO.
Is he helping you model this stuff?
It is, but it's just, there's no crystal ball, honestly.
There's not, but you need somebody who can really help you model these things out, who can help you scenario plan, who can help you stress test it, who can help you then break it down and do it smaller and try it for a month and do it for 2. Like, you need somebody who can help you figure out the financial side of this part of the game. Is anybody here watching the TV show Succession? Everything in this show is about another acquisition. Growing your companies doesn't have to be organic growth. Growing your companies doesn't have to be by sales and marketing, generating more leads and closing more leads. When you get to a certain size, some of the most efficient ways to grow your company is starting to acquire some of your competition. It can be more efficient to grow via acquisitions than it is to grow organically.
We'll typically do a strategic partnership, seeing if we can play well together. We'll do a sprint integration. So on a particular, might design a new product line or that type of thing to see if we can generate substantial revenue. And you take a risk by doing that you end up creating more, they're more valuable. It's very hard bringing these groups together type thing unless you do it up front. So one of the biggest failures for almost everybody is integration. You put the deals a little bit more at risk of actually coming together, but when it does come together, it's the synergies are outrageous type thing.
So there's opportunities, right, that we can look at. I call it ideas having sex. You take an idea from the call center industry, an idea from, your industry, and you pull them together and it becomes something bigger. Think about sales as, how do we grow our sales efforts? How do we grow our outbound sales? How do we grow our marketing? How do we get more efficient with our marketing? How do we grow our budgets in marketing? How do we charge more for our customers and put some of that into our sales and marketing? How do we do acquisitions? How do we put all of our energy and effort into marketing? How do we get better website copy for our marketing? How do we reduce our costs of marketing by leveraging AI so that we can do more? How do we measure marketing so that we're not wasting it? It's by really staying focused on the gross margin on the revenue side of the business. There's not a single problem that exists that a check can't solve. So I've always focused on the revenue side of the business and the gross margin side of the business, because the more revenue coming in, the more gross margin I've got, I can take that money and I can buy people. I can buy talent. I can put systems in place. Don't focus on better systems, better processes, better back end. Always be focusing on the revenue and gross margin side of the business, in my mind. Is anybody seeing anything happening right now with compensation? Is compensation coming back in line a little bit? Are employees still asking for the money they were asking for 2 years ago or 18 months ago, or is it getting worse?
From what I'm seeing, especially at the executive level, they're asking for the same, if not more. Generally speaking, I think that it's probably due to the economy and preparing for that.
Yeah, I think there's something happening with the economy. It's also the fact that all these companies in the Bay Area that use all the cash that they've got to acquire talent can now hire talent anywhere. So now we're competing. I think we're going to see wage inflation across all kind of job types. And this is including, by the way, the people that are coming into an office like a jewelry store in Miami. They could now get a job working customer service for a tech company based in, Silicon Valley and get paid more. It's pretty brutal when you go to the grocery store and you see inflation across anything and then think about people that are making 35, 40 grand a year. They just can't make it work anymore. Like, there just isn't enough to go around, right? When you think about rent and utilities and parking meters on the side street now, it's becoming very, very tough. So we have to look for opportunities to become more efficient as well. We can't always raise our prices. I mean, we should be trying to, but we also need to find ways to also become more efficient and more effective.
What are your thoughts hiring CEOs as a COO? We had a CEO for about 2 years, almost a year and a half. On a high level, what is sort of your experience hiring CEOs? What are the red flags that you normally see? And if you could just share a little bit of your experience and wisdom around it.
When I'm hiring any executive, any managers, any leaders, I really take a look at the tenure that they've had in their past 3 or 4 jobs. So if you're hiring 42-year-old down to the 25-year-old, they're probably loyal for 2 to 3 years. You're hiring the sub 25-year-old, the sub 28-year-old, you've got them for 6 months. Second is make sure that any of the executives, any of the senior people that you're hiring are really, really, really bought into your vivid vision, core purpose. They're really bought into your core values. I like giving 5 weeks paid vacation, including your sick time, It's a use it or lose it policy, even in California. And every month I'm coaching employees to book more time off and take more time off because December 31st, any unused days are gone. But I want employees to recharge and feel good. But if I'm paying them at the 80th percentile of the bell curve and they're getting 5 weeks of paid vacation and they're aligned with the vivid vision, the core values, the core purpose, and a cool culture, they're not going anywhere. Gen Y, more than anything, Gen Y, other than believing in those things, Gen Y wants people that actually will help them grow their skills. They're always looking at growing their skill set. So one of the things that I do is I grow their skills, put them through a course like this, send them off to a mastermind community, get them a coach, whatever you can do to grow the skill set of Gen Y, they stay very loyal to the organization because nobody cares about them like you've cared about them.
Good.
You have to be paying at the 80th percentile of the bell curve for all roles, or people are going to hop, right? If you're in the warehouse and you're only paying $14 an hour and they can get 18 somewhere else, they're going to go. If they can get 20 somewhere else, they're going to go.
Yeah, no, we would definitely pay the 80% plus equity too. So I'm not sure if equity is a whole different conversation.
Equity is a whole different conversation because they're also, for them, is it phantom stock? Do they have to wait for a transaction? Is the equity vested or do they have to buy in? Is it stock options? What's that equity really worth? Like, oh, wow. So if I stay for 5 more years, I'm going to make $100,000 because of my equity, but this guy's going to pay me $60,000 a year more. I make more leaving for more than I do waiting for equity. So unless there's going to be a meaningful transaction, equity can sometimes not be as valuable. And we really hurt ourselves as owners or senior management. I don't think you have to give out equity for everybody at all. So I think we've gotten really sloppy at saying yes to equity. And we've gotten really bad at explaining, by the way, even though I'm going to give you some equity, it's not going to be worth very much. So you're asking for the wrong thing. It's like the poor. It's like the working class saying tax the rich. They're asking for the wrong thing. What they should do is say, government, stop printing money. Stop overspending. Stop causing inflation because the inflation is wiping me out. Taxing the rich isn't going to do anything.
Other things that will be useful, hopefully in the next calls, is to really get more coaching on managing COOs as a CEO, right? Because most of these individuals are highly educated. How do you manage? How do you have the adult conversations with them? How do you keep them engaged? How do you manage their overall performance instead of micromanaging and all these things that might happen through the quarters?
Read my new book, The Second in Command. The last third of that book, it's in there. So read that for sure. I flipped the org chart upside down. So the CEO is at the bottom of the org chart, supporting the VPs and the C-level, who are supporting the managers, who are supporting the frontline staff, who are supporting the customers. So your job is not to manage them. It's not to hold them accountable. It's not to make sure they're doing stuff. Your job is to remove obstacles, to coach them, to mentor them, to cheer them on, to support them. And that's what their job is with their team. So you're supposed to be showing up every day, trying to help them get more skills with their confidence, trying to help them solve problems, trying to help them make decisions, trying to align them, and then to inspire them with your vivid vision, right? Inspire them with the goals of where we're going, but let them figure out some of the how to get there, and then you help them with the hows. Fortune magazine asked me in 2003, how do you hold your employees accountable? I said, I don't hold my employees accountable. I hire accountable people. How do you get all of your employees to be so happy? We hire happy people. So why would we be managing people? I'm going to hire a COO who can manage themselves. I'm going to hire a COO and give them the skills of things like the Invest in Your Leaders course and the COO Alliance and a peer group. But I'm going to find out what they're working on and help them remove obstacles. But I'm not going to babysit them. And you need to hire people that are driven and are good learners. Like Lacey is a sponge for learning.
So don't stop now. Click here. There's more great videos that you can keep learning from. And together we're unlocking amazing leadership lessons together.